The small town of Pine Grove wasn't kind to anyone who stood out. For Lily Chen, being different meant carrying not just the weight of her 200-pound body, but also the heavy burden of endless stares and whispers that followed her through the hallways of Pine Grove High. Every morning, she would stand in front of her mirror, tugging at her oversized sweater, trying to find ways to hide herself. But there was no hiding in a town where everyone knew everyone else's business. Her mom would always tell her she was beautiful, but the reflection staring back at her told a different story. The thing was, Lily had a gift, a voice that could make people stop in their tracks. When she sang, it was like honey and warmth and something magical all mixed together. Her choir teacher, Mrs. Rodriguez, always said Lily's voice could touch souls, and it did, until the moment people opened their eyes and saw who was singing. That spring morning started like any other. Lily walked into school wearing her favorite purple hoodie, the one that made her feel a little safer. She had stayed up late the night before, practicing for her solo in the upcoming choir performance. The hallways were buzzing with the usual morning chaos, locker doors slamming, friends laughing, and phones pinging with social media notifications. "Hey, look who decided to take up the whole hallway again," someone whispered loud enough for her to hear. Lily clutched her books tighter to her chest and quickened her pace. She had gotten good at pretending not to hear, at swallowing the hurt and pushing it down deep where nobody could see it. During choir practice, Lily stood in the back row, even though soloists usually stood in front. Mrs. Rodriguez had tried to convince her to move forward, but Lily refused. She knew what would happen: the snickers, the phone cameras secretly recording, the posts that would show up later with cruel captions. But when she opened her mouth to sing, something magical happened. The room fell silent. Her voice filled every corner, telling a story of hope and heartbreak that made even the meanest girls in class stop and listen. For those brief moments, Lily wasn't the 200-pound girl anymore. She was just pure, beautiful music. That evening, alone in her bedroom, Lily opened her laptop and did what she always did when the world felt too heavy. She recorded herself singing, careful to angle the camera so only her face was visible. Online, she had a small but loyal following who knew her only as Midnight Melody. They left comments about her voice, about how her songs made them cry or gave them courage. In that digital space, she could just be herself without fear. Her mom knocked on the door just as she finished recording a cover of her favorite song. "Honey, dinner's ready," she called out. Lily quickly closed her laptop, hiding her secret world. At the dinner table, her dad tried to make conversation, asking about school and her upcoming choir performance. Lily pushed her food around her plate, giving short answers, not mentioning the new batch of cruel comments she'd found scrawled on her locker that morning. Later that night, as she lay in bed, Lily pulled out her phone and scrolled through social media. A post from the school's most popular girl caught her eye. It was about the upcoming spring talent show. For a moment, Lily let herself dream about performing, about showing everyone who she really was. Her finger hovered over the sign-up link. Maybe this time would be different. Maybe if they really heard her sing, really saw who she was inside. But then she remembered last year's talent show and the video that had circulated afterward. The comments, the laughter, the shame. Still, as she drifted off to sleep, a small voice inside her whispered that maybe, just maybe, her music could be bigger than her fears. That voice sounded a lot like the one that came out when she sang, strong, beautiful, and unafraid of what anyone thought. What Lily didn't know was that tomorrow would bring changes she never expected, and her life was about to take a turn that would transform not just her body, but her entire world. The girl who hid in oversized hoodies was about to begin a journey that would test everything she believed about herself, about beauty, and about what it really means to be seen. The spring talent show was supposed to be Lily's moment to shine. After weeks of gathering courage and secret practice sessions in her bedroom, she had finally decided to perform an original song she'd written about finding strength in your own skin. Her mom had helped her pick out a new dress, dark blue with tiny silver stars that reminded her of the night sky. It wasn't perfect, but when she looked in the mirror that evening, she almost believed she could do this. The school auditorium buzzed with excitement. Backstage, other performers were warming up, checking their phones, and pacing nervously. Lily stood in the corner, clutching her guitar like a shield, running through the lyrics in her head one last time. Her heart was racing so fast she thought it might burst out of her chest. Next up, the student council president announced Lily Chen performing an original song. The spotlight felt like fire on her skin as she walked onto the stage. She could hear whispers rippling through the audience, see the glow of phone screens being raised. Taking a deep breath, she adjusted the microphone and began to play. The first few notes were shaky, but then something magical happened. As she sang about feeling invisible and dreaming of being seen, her voice grew stronger. The whispers died down. For 3 precious minutes, she wasn't the girl who took up too much space. She was just pure emotion and melody. When the last note faded, there was a moment of silence. Then applause erupted, scattered at first but growing stronger. Some people were even standing. For one beautiful moment, Lily felt like maybe everything was going to change. But moments don't last forever. The next morning, her phone exploded with notifications. Someone had posted a video of her performance, but it wasn't the touching moment she'd experienced. They'd edited it, added cruel captions and unflattering zoom-ins. The comments were worse. Hundreds of them, each one more hurtful than the last. Who told her she could wear that dress? Brave of her to get on stage looking like that. Great voice, but maybe stick to recording from behind the scenes. The video spread like wildfire. By lunch, it had reached beyond their school, attracting trolls from all over who added their own mean comments. Every buzz of her phone felt like another tiny knife in her heart. Walking into school became torture. People would pull up the video when she passed, making sure she could hear their laughter. Her locker was covered in printed screenshots with cruel comments written across them. Even some teachers seemed to be holding back smirks. That Thursday, during choir practice, something inside Lily finally broke. As she stood to perform her solo, someone in the back row started playing the viral video at full volume. The laughter that followed was too much. She ran out of the room, out of the school, and kept running until she couldn't breathe. She ended up at the small park near her house, collapsing onto a swing. The chains creaked as she swayed back and forth, tears streaming down her face. Her phone kept buzzing in her pocket, but she couldn't bear to look at it anymore. That evening, she told her parents she was sick. The next day too, and the day after that. Her bedroom became her sanctuary and her prison. She deleted all her social media accounts, even her beloved Midnight Melody channel, where she built a small community of supporters. The guitar gathered dust in the corner. Her mom tried to help, bringing up her favorite foods and suggesting they watch movies together. Her dad awkwardly offered to talk to the school principal. But Lily just pulled her blankets tighter around herself, trying to make herself as small as possible in a world that seemed determined to remind her how much space she took up. At night, she would lie awake, remembering how it felt to stand in that spotlight, to let her voice soar free. But now that memory was tainted, twisted into something painful. The girl who had dared to dream of being seen was learning the hard way that sometimes visibility comes with a price too high to pay. What Lily didn't know was that rock bottom has a way of becoming a foundation. In the darkness of her room, as she struggled with the weight of humiliation and hurt, seeds of change were beginning to take root. Sometimes the deepest pain can become the catalyst for the most profound transformations. 2 weeks had passed since Lily last stepped foot in school. Her room, once covered with music posters and fairy lights, now felt like a cocoon where she could hide from the world. The only sounds were the gentle whir of her fan and the occasional ping of her mom's worried text messages asking if she wanted to talk. It was during one of those quiet afternoons that she heard a soft knock on her door. "Honey," her mom called out, "Dr. Wilson is here to see you." Dr. Wilson had been her family doctor since she was little, the kind woman who always had candy in her pocket and never made Lily feel judged during weigh-ins. Reluctantly, Lily let them in. Dr. Wilson didn't come with her usual white coat or medical bag. Instead, she sat on the edge of Lily's bed, looking at her with kind eyes. "Your parents tell me you haven't been to school in a while," she said softly. Something about her gentle tone broke through Lily's walls. The words tumbled out about the talent show, the viral video, the cruel comments that seemed to follow her everywhere. As she talked, Dr. Wilson listened, really listened, without trying to offer quick fixes or empty comfort. When Lily finished, wiping tears from her cheeks, Dr. Wilson spoke carefully. "You know, there are different kinds of strength," she said. Sometimes strength is pushing through pain, but sometimes it's asking for help when you need it. That conversation opened a door. Over the next few weeks, Lally started seeing a therapist, Ms. Rivera, who helped her understand that her worth wasn't tied to her size or what others thought of her. They talked about her love for music, her dreams, and the pain she'd been carrying for so long. During one session, Ms. Rivera asked Lally to write letters to herself, one to her past self, one to her present self, and one to her future self. As she wrote, Lily realized something important. She didn't want to change because of the bullies or the cruel comments. She wanted to change for herself, to become the person she knew she could be. That's when her parents sat her down for a serious talk. They had been saving money for her college fund, but they had another idea. "We've been doing research," her mom explained, showing her some medical websites. "There are options if you're interested. But this has to be your choice, honey. Only yours." Lally spent days researching, reading stories of people who had gone through weight loss surgery, joining online support groups, and learning about the risks and benefits. She discovered it wasn't a magic fix. It required commitment, lifestyle changes, and a lot of hard work. Dr. Wilson connected them with a specialist who worked with teens. The consultation was different from what Lily expected. Instead of immediately talking about surgery, they discussed her mental health, her support system, and her readiness for major life changes. "This isn't about making you into a different person," the specialist explained. "It's about giving you tools to become the healthiest version of yourself, physically and mentally." The decision wasn't easy. Some days, Lily felt excited about the possibility of change. Other days, she worried she was letting the bullies win by changing herself. But Ms. Rivera helped her see that taking control of her health wasn't giving in, it was taking back her power. One evening, as she sat at her desk, looking at old photos of herself sitting at family gatherings, something clicked. She didn't want to change to fit someone else's idea of beauty. She wanted to change so she could stand on stage again, sing her heart out, and feel as strong on the outside as she was on the inside. The night before she made her final decision, Lally pulled out her guitar for the first time in weeks. She played softly, singing a melody that had been forming in her head. It was a song about transformation, about butterflies and chrysalises, about becoming while still remaining yourself. Her parents were supportive but made sure she understood this was just the beginning of a journey. There would be challenges, setbacks, and hard work ahead. But as Lily signed the medical forms, she felt something she hadn't felt in a long time: hope. That summer would mark the start of her transformation, but not just the physical kind. It would be the beginning of Lily learning to love herself, to stand up for herself, and to believe in the power of her own voice, both literally and figuratively. The morning sun filtered through the curtains as Lily stood in front of her mirror, marking another day in her journey. 6 months had passed since her surgery, and each day brought new discoveries. Her old clothes now hung loose, and she'd started keeping a journal of all the little changes she noticed, like how she could cross her legs comfortably while sitting, or how climbing stairs didn't leave her breathless anymore. But the biggest change wasn't something you could see in the mirror. It was in the way she held herself, the way she had started to believe in possibilities again. Her transformation wasn't just about losing weight, it was about finding herself. The journey hadn't been easy. The first few weeks after surgery were tough, filled with new routines and occasional discomfort. She had to learn to eat differently, taking tiny bites and chewing carefully. Some days she missed her comfort foods, but her nutritionist helped her discover new ways to enjoy eating while staying healthy. Her mom had become her biggest cheerleader, cooking special meals and going on early morning walks with her. They started with short distances, just around the block. Now they could walk for an hour, talking about everything and nothing. These walks became their special time, where Lily could share her hopes and fears about the future. One day, while organizing her room, Lily found her old guitar buried under a pile of clothes. Her fingers traced the smooth wood, remembering the joy it used to bring her. With trembling hands, she picked it up and started to play. Her voice was rusty from months of silence, but as she sang, something felt different. The music felt lighter, freer somehow. Her vocal coach, Mr. Chen, no relation, noticed it too when she finally returned to lessons. "Your breathing has improved," he said during their first session back. "Let's work on your technique with this new strength." They started with simple exercises, but soon Lily was hitting notes she'd never reached before. The physical therapy sessions became another unexpected source of joy. Her therapist, a warm-hearted woman who always wore colorful scrubs, taught her exercises that make her stronger. "Think of your body as an instrument," she would say. "We're just tuning it to play its best music." As the months passed, Lily's confidence grew alongside her strength. She started picking out new clothes, not to hide anymore, but to express herself. Her favorite was a deep purple dress that made her feel like a rock star. She even started experimenting with makeup, learning from online tutorials and having fun with different looks. But not everyone understood her journey. Some people at school whispered that she had taken the easy way out. Lily just smiled, knowing there was nothing easy about the hours of exercise, the strict meal plans, and the emotional work she put in every day. Her therapist, Ms. Rivera, helped her see that other people's opinions said more about them than about her. During one of their sessions, Ms. Rivera suggested something that scared and excited Lily, joining a youth music program at the local community center. "Your voice isn't just about singing," she said. "It's about being heard, about taking up space in the world unapologetically." With shaking hands, Lily filled out the application. The program met twice a week after school, bringing together young musicians from all over town. At first, she sat in the back, observing others. But gradually, she found herself moving forward, offering suggestions, sharing her own songs. The group became like a second family. They didn't care about her past or her weight loss journey. They just cared about the music she created and the person she was becoming. During one session, she shared a song she'd written about her transformation. The room fell silent as she sang, and when she finished, several people had tears in their eyes. By the time graduation approached, Lily had lost over 80 pounds, but she had gained something far more valuable, a sense of who she was and what she could achieve. Her voice had grown stronger, both literally and metaphorically. She no longer shrank from attention or tried to make herself invisible. One evening, as she practiced for an upcoming community center performance, her mom captured a video of her singing. Looking at it later, Lily barely recognized herself, not because of her changed appearance, but because of the confidence that radiated from her every movement. The girl who used to hide behind oversized hoodies was gone, replaced by someone who wasn't afraid to shine. What Lily didn't know was that this video would find its way to someone who would change the course of her life forever. But that was a chapter yet to unfold, and for now, she was content in the knowledge that every day brought her closer to becoming the person she was always meant to be. The community center buzzed with excitement on graduation night. Parents clutched cameras, and proud teachers beamed as students in royal blue gowns filled the makeshift stage. For Lily, this night meant more than just receiving a diploma. She was going to perform an original song she'd written about her journey. As she stepped up to the microphone, wearing a dress that sparkled under the lights, she caught her parents' eyes in the crowd. Her mom was already dabbing at tears, and her dad gave her a thumbs up. The opening notes of her guitar filled the room, and then she began to sing. The song told her story, not just about transformation, but about finding your voice and learning to use it. Her voice soared through the verses, strong and clear, filling every corner of the room. What she didn't notice was the woman in the back row, quietly filming on her phone. 2 days later, Lily was helping her mom with dinner when her phone started buzzing nonstop. "You need to see this," read a text from her music group friend, followed by a link. The video of her graduation performance had gone viral, but this time it was different. The comments were filled with praise, people asking who she was, where they could hear more of her music. "That's one of the most honest performances I've ever seen," one comment read. "Her voice is incredible. When is her album coming out? This girl is going places." Then came the email that changed everything. The woman from graduation night turned out to be a talent scout for an independent music label. "Your performance moved me to tears," she wrote. "I'd love to meet and discuss your future in music." Lily read the email 20 times, her hands shaking. This was the dream she'd kept tucked away in her heart, the one she'd almost given up on. Her parents helped her research the label, making sure it was legitimate. A week later, they sat in a small office downtown, listening to the scout talk about recording contracts and artistic development. "We don't want to change who you are," the scout explained, her eyes kind. Your authenticity is what makes you special. We want to help you share your story with the world. The following months felt like a whirlwind. Lily deferred her college acceptance to pursue music full-time. The recording studio became her second home, a place where she could experiment with her sound and collaborate with other artists who treated her like an equal. Her first single told the story of her transformation, but not in the way people expected. It wasn't about weight loss or becoming beautiful. It was about finding your inner strength and letting it shine. The chorus spoke about breaking free from other people's expectations and learning to dance to your own rhythm. The song caught on quickly. Small radio stations started playing it, and social media buzzed with covers and dance videos. People connected with her honest lyrics and powerful voice. But what touched Lily most were the messages from teenagers who saw themselves in her story. "Your music helped me believe in myself," one fan wrote. "I listen to your song every morning before school. It gives me courage," said another. The local newspaper ran a story about her, and soon bigger media outlets picked it up. They wanted to talk about her transformation, but Lily always steered the conversations toward mental health, self-acceptance, and the power of music to heal. Her first live performance as a signed artist was at a small venue downtown. She stood backstage, heart pounding, remembering that terrible talent show day. But when she stepped into the spotlight, something magical happened. The crowd welcomed her with open arms, singing along to songs they'd learned from her social media posts. During meet and greets, fans would share their own stories of struggle and hope. Lily listened to each one, remembering how it felt to be the girl hiding in oversized hoodies. She made sure every person who came to see her left feeling seen and heard. One night, after a particularly successful show, Lily sat in her dressing room looking at her reflection. The girl in the mirror wasn't just a singer or a success story, she was someone who had learned that true transformation starts from within. Her music wasn't just about entertaining people, it was about showing them that change is possible, that pain can become power, and that every voice deserves to be heard. What she didn't realize was that her biggest challenge and greatest opportunity to make a difference was just around the corner. But for now, she was exactly where she needed to be, using her voice to help others find theirs. As Lily's first single climbed the music charts, her life changed in ways she never expected. The quiet girl from Pine Grove was now doing radio interviews, photo shoots, and live performances almost every week. Her social media followers grew from thousands to millions, and her inbox was flooded with messages from fans sharing their own stories of transformation. But fame came with its own set of challenges. One morning, while scrolling through comments on her latest music video, she found herself falling into an old habit, focusing on the negative ones. Among hundreds of supportive messages, there were always a few that cut deep. She only got famous because of her transformation. Wonder if she would have made it if she stayed the way she was. Bet she thinks she's better than everyone now. Her mom found her crying in her bedroom, just like in the old days. "I thought things would be different now," Lily whispered, wiping her tears. "But sometimes I feel like I'm still that scared girl in the school hallway." Her mom sat beside her, smoothing Lily's hair like she used to when she was little. "You're not that scared girl anymore," she said softly. "But it's okay to remember her. She's part of who you are." That conversation sparked something in Lily. During her next interview, when the host tried to focus only on her physical transformation, she gently but firmly steered the conversation in a different direction. "Yes, I've changed on the outside," she said, her voice steady. "But the real transformation was learning to love myself at every stage of my journey. My weight loss wasn't about fitting someone else's idea of beauty. It was about becoming healthy and strong enough to chase my dreams." The clip went viral, resonating with people who were tired of shallow beauty standards. Lily started receiving invitations to speak at schools and youth groups. She found herself opening up about her struggles with mental health, the importance of therapy, and how success didn't magically fix everything. During one particularly memorable school visit, a young girl raised her hand during the Q&A session. "Did the bullies try to be your friends after you got famous?" she asked, her voice trembling slightly. Lily took a deep breath before answering. "Some did," she admitted. "And at first, I was angry about that. But then I realized that holding on to that anger was only hurting me. Now I focus on being the kind of person I needed when I was struggling." Her record label wanted her to keep riding the wave of her first hit, but Lily insisted on taking time to write songs that meant something. She spent late nights in her home studio, pouring her complicated feelings about fame, beauty, and self-worth into her lyrics. The new songs were different, more raw, more honest. One track talked about looking in the mirror and still sometimes seeing her old self. Another described the pressure of being seen as a role model when she was still figuring things out herself. Her producer was nervous about the new direction. "These aren't typical pop songs," he warned. But Lily stood her ground. "They're real," she said, "and that's more important than being typical." She was right. When the new songs were released, they connected with people in a way her first hit hadn't. Fans started sharing their own stories of struggle and growth, creating a community that went beyond just music. At meet and greets, Lily made sure to really listen to each person who came to see her. She remembered how it felt to be invisible, so she tried to make everyone feel seen. Sometimes that meant staying hours after a show was supposed to end, but to her, it was worth it. One night, after a particularly emotional fan encounter, Lily sat in her hotel room and opened her old journal, the one she'd started right after her surgery. Reading through her past thoughts and fears, she realized something important. Her story wasn't just about transformation anymore. It was about staying true to yourself even when the whole world is watching. As she got ready for bed that night, Lily caught her reflection in the mirror. The girl looking back at her wasn't perfect. She still had doubts, still had days when she felt unsure. But she was real, and she was using her voice not just to sing, but to make a difference. What she didn't know was that her biggest opportunity to create change was just around the corner. Her journey was about to come full circle in a way she never expected, and the scared girl from Pine Grove was about to become someone who could help others find their own voice. 3 years had passed since Lily left Pine Grove, and now she was coming home. The local arena's billboard displayed her name in bright lights, something that still felt surreal every time she saw it. As her tour bus pulled into town, memories flooded back. The hallways she used to hurry through, the auditorium where everything changed, the park where she used to hide and cry. Her mom had kept her updated about changes in town. Pine Grove High had a new principal who had implemented strict anti-bullying policies. The Quiet program had grown, and they'd even started a student-run music club. But what really caught Lily's attention was learning that many of her former classmates still lived here, some with families of their own now. The morning of the concert, Lily drove past her old house, then parked at the small park where she used to seek refuge. The swing set was still there, though freshly painted. As she sat on one of the swings, a group of teenage girls walked by. They did a double take, then nervously approached. "Are you really her?" one asked, clutching her phone. "We have tickets to your show tonight." Lily smiled, patting the swing next to her. "Want to sit and chat for a bit?" For the next hour, she listened to their stories. One girl was struggling with anxiety. Another was being cyberbullied. They shared their dreams, their fears, their hopes. It felt like looking into a mirror of her past. "You know what?" Lily said, "I have an idea. Would you like to help me with something special for tonight's show?" The concert venue was packed, familiar faces mixed with fans who had driven from neighboring towns. Backstage, Lily peeked through the curtain and saw some of her old teachers, including Mrs. Rodriguez, her choir teacher who had always believed in her. She also spotted some of the people who had once made her life difficult, now sitting with their own families. Instead of starting with her newest hit, Lily walked onto stage with just her guitar. "Pine Grove," she said into the microphone, "I'm home." She told them about the girls she'd met at the park that morning, about how their stories reminded her of her own. Then she announced her surprise. She was launching an anti-bullying foundation, starting right here in Pine Grove. The foundation would provide music therapy programs, counseling services, and safe spaces for kids struggling with bullying and self-esteem issues. "But that's not all," she continued. "Tonight, I want to share the stage with some amazing young voices." The teenage girls from the park walked on stage, along with members of the high school choir. Together, they performed a new song Lily had written especially for this moment. It was about healing, forgiveness, and the power of community. During the performance, something magical happened. The audience began to join in, their phone lights swaying in the darkness. People who had once been on opposite sides of the bullying divide were singing the same words, sharing the same space, united by music. After the show, during the meet and greet, one of her former bullies approached with tears in her eyes. "I have a daughter now," she said, her voice shaking. "I've been so worried about her starting school, about her being bullied, or worse, becoming a bully. Your music has helped me teach her about kindness." Lily hugged her, remembering what her therapist had said about forgiveness being a gift you give yourself. They talked about their shared past, about growth, about change. It wasn't about forgetting, it was about learning and moving forward. Later that night, after everyone had left, Lily sat alone on the stage. She pulled out her old journal and began to write. "Dear Pine Grove, tonight wasn't just a homecoming, it was a reminder that our stories never really end. They just keep evolving, touching other stories, creating ripples we might never see. 3 years ago, I thought my transformation was about changing how I looked. Now I know it was about finding the strength to be who I needed to be, not just for myself, but for others too." The girl who once hid in oversized hoodies now stands in spotlights, not because she became perfect, but because she learned that her imperfections were part of her power. Every scar, every tear, every moment of doubt led to this, not just a voice that can sing, but a voice that can speak for those who are still finding their own. This foundation isn't just about stopping bullying. It's about creating spaces where everyone's voice can be heard, where every story matters, where transformation isn't about changing who you are, but about becoming more truly yourself. Tonight, Pine Grove reminded me that sometimes you have to come back to where it all began to realize just how far you've come. And sometimes the best way to heal old wounds is to help others heal theirs. The spotlight isn't just mine anymore. It belongs to every kid who's ever felt different, every person who's ever wanted to change, every voice waiting to be heard. This is just the beginning. As she closed her journal, Lily heard the echo of tonight's performance in her mind, dozens of voices joining together, proof that music could build bridges where walls once stood. Her journey had come full circle, but it wasn't an ending. It was a new beginning, not just for her, but for every person her story would touch.